Mr. Lowry, how did you first become interested in the period you covered in your remarks at the conference today?
Well, I've always been interested in history, and particularly American history, and the founding period is obviously so influential in terms of subsequent events and institutions in American history, features so many fascinating people, and has been subject to so much debate, especially throughout most of our history, but especially lately with the left's attack on our country's founding at its root.
Kind of building off that, what do you see as the most important topic you spoke about today? What would you like the audience to walk away with?
Well, I talked about Thomas Jefferson and his legacy, and Thomas Jefferson was a flawed man, the way we're all flawed, and had a morally compromised relationship to the institution of slavery, but was absolutely central to the American founding and to subsequent American politics. So there's just no substitute, as I said today, for being a exceptionally gifted writer, which Thomas Jefferson was. There's a misconception in the popular imagination that Jefferson kind of came up with all these ideas on his own, which he didn't, but he expressed them in a uniquely lapidary and powerful way, and that's helped them ring down through all of American history.
What do you think is most misunderstood about the founding era and the founding fathers?
Well, the lie that's being told about them, especially in recent years, is that it was all about slavery. It was all about the protection of slavery. And it's true that the founding accommodated slavery, but it did not affirm it. They were very careful to not do that. Jefferson had a passage in the initial draft of the Declaration of Independence condemning the king for slavery. And the compromise was, well, we're going to seem like hypocrites if we have that in, let's just take it out. But that was the general approach. Let's not talk about it. Let's not write it down if we don't have to. The word is not used in the Constitution, and the Declaration and the Constitution were used subsequently very effectively by anti-slavery advocates to cut away the philosophical foundations of the slave system subsequently. So this ended up to be a very wise choice, because you wouldn't have gotten America as we know it without those unfortunate compromises, and the way they did it provided ammunition for the right side of the dispute over slavery. So the idea that this was all about protecting slavery, that was the main impetus for it, is in my mind, a dastardly lie.
Were there any topics or ideas that you didn't get the chance to cover during the time in the seminar that you'd like to touch on now?
Well, I didn't really get a chance to express my agreement with what many other speakers said in the morning session, which is that the antecedents of the American Revolution and documents like the Declaration go way back into English history. And the beauty of the Revolution is that it sought to preserve what had worked in America and to push it ahead to a new model of governance. And you needed both ends of that proposition to make a revolution that worked.
Do you think the United States has been effective in kind of both bringing along the history of Great Britain and kind of capitalizing on new ideas and innovating what was done before?
Yeah, I think this is really, this is the conservative project, or what it should be. And change in America should always be a combination of looking back into what's best in the past, and then bring it forward to reapply those lessons or those principles. And perhaps the foremost example of this in our history is Abraham Lincoln, who was a very forward-looking person, but used the word ancient, old, our fathers constantly, because he wanted to re-excavate those ideals which he thought correctly had been tarnished by a turnabout in the southern United States that made an affirmative defense of slavery as a positive institution, just to justify its continuance. And he said, you know, the robe of the American Revolution has been dragged in the mud, and we need to wash it anew. And I think that's always should be part of the American project, looking back at our history, taking what's best from it, and drawing lessons to improve the future.
Do you think Calvin Coolidge's position on the Declaration of Independence is still relevant today? And if so, what should modern Americans remember about Coolidge's legacy?
Well, this is one of the great speeches of the 20th century, his July 4th oration, where he has that arresting formulation about these propositions being unchanging and permanent and fixed, which the very basic ideas are. And the Declaration, when it was actually written and spread to the world, the most important part was the end. It's just the fact that we were declaring independence was the news from the Declaration of Independence. But over time, slowly, the preamble became the most important part of it, setting out the basic theory of American government. You have these inalienable rights that need to be protected. Government comes from the people and exists to serve the people. And if it doesn't, if there's a long train of abuses, as the Declaration says, well, then the people have a right to form their own government. And that's not, something that we want to, 50 years from now, just say, that was an anachronism. What were we thinking? That's something you want to have as an unalterable foundation of our project. And Coolidge was an extremely eloquent spokesman for that point.